Hi, I'm Colin, and this is Sci-Fi Deep Dive. So with EA Play right around the corner, I figured now was a good time to discuss what exactly we should expect from EA Play 2020. This is, by the way, specifically in reference to Star Wars. I won't be talking about other IPs here. But before we get into this, if you enjoy what you see here today, head down below and hit that subscribe button. I try to upload at least twice a week, covering everything from Halo to Star Wars. So for those of you who don't know, EA is the only video game publisher that has access to the Star Wars license. What this means is that every Star Wars game to come out in the foreseeable future will be produced by a studio owned by EA. These studios include most notably DICE, Respawn, and Bioware, but there's plenty of others. Those are just the big three that come to mind when I think of Star Wars games. So let's start with the thing I think we're pretty much guaranteed to at least hear a little bit about. And that is a sequel to Jedi Fallen Order. Jedi Fallen Order came out late last year and was a massive success. The Star Wars community loved it, me included, and it was really just well received pretty much across the board. There were some nitpicky complaints, but nothing really too glaring or dramatic. So it came as no surprise when earlier this year, EA started dropping hints that they might be working on a sequel. Now, I shouldn't have to tell you that I am very excited to see where they take this Star Wars story in the future. I really loved what they did with the first one, and I could really get behind the idea of seeing more of that. So hopefully, while I wouldn't expect to see gameplay, we might get like a little reveal trailer or something along those lines. But I do think we will see something related to a potential sequel to Jedi Fallen Order this year at EA Play. Now, this one is not 100% confirmed, but it looks like we're going to get word on a new Star Wars game called Star Wars Maverick. Now, at the moment, what we know about Star Wars Maverick is very limited. It seems to be some little leaks here and there, but it looks like it's a starfighter game. Now, this is something I am also very excited about. If this really is a starfighter game, it's something that we haven't had in Star Wars in probably about 2 decades since the old Rogue Squadron games. Now, fun fact, the Rogue Squadron games were actually my introduction to Star Wars as a whole, so I actually kind of have a very personal tie to that genre of games. On top of that, I really enjoyed the way they handled Starfighter Assault in Battlefront II, so I'm very optimistic with what they can do with a Starfighter game. That being said, we know basically nothing about this other than rumors, and we don't know which studio would be working on this. So we'll just wait and see whether that comes to fruition. So those are the two things that I think there's a very good bet that I think we're going to get to see at least some of this year at EA Play. Now let's do a little bit of speculation. These are some things I would really like to see. First on my list is Battlefront 3. Now, fairly recently, DICE stopped putting out updates for Battlefront 2. While the game is still being maintained and the servers are still up, there is no new content coming out for that game. Now, while Battlefront 2 launched as kind of a catastrophe, it got far better over the years and ended up as a very well-built Star Wars game. And the fans of Star Wars Battlefront are remarkably dedicated to the franchise. So I think there's a fairly decent bet that EA is looking into the possibility of building a sequel to Battlefront 2. I wouldn't be too surprised if they announced it or showed some sort of a teaser trailer, sort of like what they did for the first Battlefront at E3 many years ago, but I wouldn't get my hopes up. I think if there is going to be a sequel for Battlefront, and I really hope there will be, it's entirely possible it might be a few years down the line that we hear anything about it. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about is something that's really just a pipe dream of mine, but I really want to see it, so I'm going to throw it out there. And that is another Knights of the Republic style game, specifically from Bioware. Bioware is the studio, which is owned by EA, that made the old Knights of the Old Republic games, as well as The Old Republic, the MMO that came out about 10 years ago. For those of you who haven't played Knights of the Old Republic, go out and pick that up and play that. That's really one of the best Star Wars games of all time. This sort of open-world format lends itself very well to Star Wars, and it really feels like you're exploring the Star Wars galaxy and carving out your own story. I would love to see Bioware bring the lessons that they learned from Mass Effect and Dragon Age into making another Knights of the Old Republic game. That being said, we have basically nothing to suggest that that's going to happen. That's really just something I kind of hope for, but, fingers crossed. But if you want to know more about Battlefront in particular, a game that I've actually talked about before on this channel, I'll leave a link up in one of the corners to a video I did a while ago explaining how far Battlefront had come since its kind of messy launch. And I want you to tell me down below in the comments what you hope to see from EA Play 2020. Do you want to see one of these games that I mentioned, or is there something I didn't mention that you are really looking forward to seeing? And if you enjoyed what you saw here today, or you just want more sci-fi discussions, head down below and hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you get notified when I upload new videos. So for Sci-Fi Deep Dive, I'm Colin, and I will see you next time.